Hi, my name is George Hartzman. I live at 2506 Bay Tree Drive. A couple questions before I start. Mr. Kaplan mentioned hard cash. How much hard cash is he putting into the deal?
Sir, generally in public hearing discussions, we don't allow the back and forth and the questions. Well, give us your comments and ask those questions, and then board members will ask them at a later time, perhaps. Okay.
Other questions I would have would be, where the hotel guests going to park? Because there won't be parking. And as a general question, I don't know if this can be answered, but are the bonds going to say Guilford County on them? Does anyone know?
We will try to respond to that in a moment.
If you could respond to that later. I'd like to begin by questioning the premise that no taxpayer money will be involved in the proposed hotel project. If the hotel's financing involves tax credits that provide directly paid credits against federal income taxes, how can this project not involve taxpayer money? Aren't federal economic recovery zone bonds and tax credits subsidized by taxpayers borrowing and accumulating federal debt to be paid for by higher taxes on the future income of our nation's children, including Greensboro and Guilford County taxpayers? If the hotel is financed with federal subsidies from the stimulus package and receives revenues that would have gone to other hotels and restaurants that would have paid local, state, and federal taxes, how can anyone say that the hotel project, which will most likely declare years of tax-deductible operating losses, will not transfer taxable profits from other businesses right here in Greensboro and Guilford County, confiscating local tax revenues from Greensboro and Guilford by depositing the lost revenues and taxes into a state-sponsored business? If the analysis submitted by the Urban Hotel Group is correct, could Guilford County's commissioners tonight indirectly annually remove more than $3.6 million in taxable revenues from other hotels paying local taxes to another that will pay far less, if any at all? According to the analysis, and this is from Urban Hotel Group, I believe by HVS February 16th, if total Greensboro hotel occupancy stays the same citywide, how could more than $3.2 million in annual taxable revenues not come directly out of the pockets of privately owned eateries, caterers, and bars? If some who suggest no taxpayer money is involved are incorrect, what else could be ambiguously disingenuous? There were two analyses performed by the same company for this project. Name of the company is HVS, I believe. The first commissioned by the city of Greensboro. It was dated January 18, 2010. It said the average food and beverage revenues for comparable downtown hotels in large cities range from $75 to $92, while the hotel developers projected food and beverage revenues to be about $115, by far above, for a hotel that is in the downtown, that is surrounded by restaurants. It's surrounded by nightclubs, and there's a ballpark down the street. How could projected food and beverage revenues rise from $115 on January 18th to $169 less than 30 days later? So the city of Greensboro commissioned a study in which the developer said per room food and beverage was $115, and less than a month later, the same company comes out with a projection that says every room is going to bring in $169 per night, per room. How can an independent analysis by the same company assert that occupancy projections rose 20% with 10% fewer rooms inside of a month. Are these numbers presented by the same company that rejected the feasibility of the hotel less than a month before? Are they realistic? Mark Twain said, "Sometimes I wonder whether the world is being run by smart people who are putting us on, or by imbeciles who really mean it." If the possibility exists that this vote is based on inaccurate information, and that chance exists because there are two studies that I believe have not been compared by the Guilford County Commissioners, should the Commissioners investigate the disparities between the two studies before approving a project that may involve taxpayer money, even though the promoters say otherwise? Thank you.
If there are any opponents that would like to rebut, please step forward.
There's a disparity in the feasibility study that the city paid for and the feasibility study that the developer paid for. And you are charged this evening with making a judgment call on which to believe. To make that judgment call, you have to have reviewed both studies. And I would say that if you have not reviewed both studies and talked to the people who wrote both studies, which apparently are different people, then you are not in place. You are not qualified at the moment if you have not looked at both of those studies to make a decision based on the facts, because you don't have the facts in front of you to make the decision. I asked how much equity was in the deal. Mr. Kaplan said $4 million. The property was purchased, I believe, for $450,000, and that $4 million is, my understanding, an estimate of the appreciation since, I think, 2001 or 2, for what it's worth. I didn't hear anything about cash injected into the deal as of now. To say that there's no taxpayer money involved in this, if you get a tax credit and you send your tax return in with it, you get more money back. That money comes from other taxpayers. That money comes from debt that has been charged to my children. So if one was to say that there is no tax money involved in this deal, I vehemently disagree with that assertion, and I realize we have limited time, but I would be happy to debate that point at length if necessary. Thank you.